Hi friends, Eric here, host Talking with Famous People. I'm going into room one of appear.in, and I am here today to talk to you about love, true love, marriage. If you'd like to join me to talk about true love, you can join me in appear.in/TWFP1. We're live streaming from room one. We're also live streaming the Raw channel from room two, but I'm not in room two at the moment. I'm not in room one either, as of course we are naturally experiencing some technical difficulties. As is our want, as they say, as is our want. Okay, here we are face to face, just a couple of silver spoons. Is it true love? That's the question. Regarding this issue of true love, people have heard and discussed and considered the possibilities for themselves as sexual beings in the world, what kind of partner they think they want, what kind of relationship they're going to have, yada, yada, yada. And as a culture, contemporaneously, I would say we have come to understand, in most capacities, relationships as things that one must work on, that require compromise from both parties, that are not easy, that don't don't always provide everyone with what they want, but that are rewarding to the extent that you put the work in to make them work. I reject that notion entirely. I think that relationships work when you have the right person. Kato is one of the first people to open my eyes to this, actually. Famous person Kato, who said he didn't think you should have to change anything at all, that the person should love you the way you are. Well, I agree with that. The changes that occur to a person when they're in love are naturally occurring changes, not things that they do to adjust to become more like the other person wants, but rather to become a better version of yourself. So, my basic position on the answer to the question, is true love a real thing, is yes, it is a real thing. And you should wait for it and or find it. You should, hi Mark, that you should in fact get rid of your current relationship if it's not everything it could be. I didn't understand this for many years. I was in a marriage that was good. It was a good marriage. It was an adequate marriage. So I was with an ESFJ. That's close to my dual in socionics. And it worked okay for many years. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was functional. Eventually, there came a time when it ceased to be functional. It ceased to be functional because we fundamentally had incompatibilities that prevented the other party from fulfilling the needs of each party. If I hadn't been a drunk for a lot of those years, there's a good chance that Candace and I probably would have figured out a way to work things out and stay together and yada yada yada. Much to both of our detriments, I'm sure, certainly to mine. I didn't understand it got better than that. I didn't believe in true love. I didn't believe in love in general. I thought that love was a behavior, that it was consisted of doing affirming the other party verbally and being on their side and stuff like that. And those indeed are the symptoms of love, but I didn't understand at the time that there's an underlying um, passion and FI based feeling and wanting to be next to the person that is the engine of a truly happy dual relationship. What I feel with Kimberly is a desire to do what Kimberly wants to do and to be around Kimberly all the time. A desire to see her happy and just, I mean, a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment just by spending the afternoon with her. Like we just went and got her bicycle repaired at the bike shop. And while we were there, we went and got a couple of Starbucks. Um, and then we went to this vintage clothing store, and she found a dress that she kind of liked, and we bought that dress. It was $16. And that's the sort of thing that if I were with anybody but my dual, I would be like, okay, my God, how long is this errand going to take me? Please get back home where I can resume playing. Well, with Kimberly, it's a delight to go out and do shit like that. That's actual compatibility. The actual compatibility is such that Kimberly doesn't want to do stuff like that more frequently than I do on a naturally occurring basis. There's a natural compatibility to us that makes it very easy for us to be in love and want to spend time together and be happy with each other and all that kind of stuff. The thing about it is, though, you can actually test for this stuff pretty accurately. Kimberly and I both took the socionics test where it tells you what you are and what your ideal dual is. Now, basically, the ratios of everything are exactly right for me and Kimberly in terms of I will have this be strong, I will value this strongly, or I will have this be weak and value this strongly, or I'll have this be strong and value it weakly, stuff like that. In terms of those things, we match up just right. She took the test. She wouldn't have been able to game the test if she had tried. She didn't understand the stuff well enough. She turned out straight up ISFJ with a little bit more FE than SI, which seems right to me. And it turns out like basically we're lined up properly. If we were going to be exactly perfect, I'd have like 4 points less intuition and 4 points more extroverted thinking. I mean, it's pretty damn close. So my experience in life of experiencing this duality thing is borne out by these test results, which we both took independently, and which, while I might have been able to gain mine, in theory, it showed up what I expected. I'm an intuition heavy ENTP. Remember also those socionics results. Uh, they show you that a person's um, percentages add up to 100 on the conscious stack and 100 on the unconscious stack according to their Model A blocks. I don't buy the Model A blocks notion, and I think that they should have those things in a different order. But regardless of that, their methodology of testing shows what I intuitively believe to be the case and what I've witnessed from data and stuff like that, which is it Kimberly is a straight up, no holds barred, no doubt ISFJ, that her split of function priorities is it matches up quite well with my own in general, and there are a couple spots where it doesn't quite match up. Like I have a little bit more FE in terms of actual strength than her ideal dual would have. In other words, her ideal dual would let her handle the FE a little bit more than I do, and her her valuing of TE is a little bit high for my strength of it. So I should have a slightly stronger TE if I wanted to be a perfect dual for her. But that's where it's true that you should be willing to work and get and apply yourself to the extent that you need to when you've got that little distance to cover, right? I mean, and the thing is, because I am so aware of what the test questions are intending to determine, I'm probably more likely to skew my own results to be more imbalanced. And basically, a slightly more balanced version of an ENTP than myself would be almost a perfect match for Kimberly's ISFJ. ISFJ is probably what I actually am, minus the skew. So it's pretty damn close regardless. And the point is, to the extent that we still have differences, those things are easy to bridge. And that's a situation where you say, that's true love. The question is, well, could it be somebody else and also be true love? It's a tough question to answer because I do believe that ENTP can find a totally fulfilling relationship with an ISFJ that's not as perfectly compatible with me as Kimberly is. But I would note that Kimberly's perfectly compatible with me in ways other than simply cognitive functions. She's the same age as me. We have kids the same age. We're both as unencumbered as each other. We both have totally flexible schedules and spend a lot of time together. She's she has room in her life for somebody to come in and become the central figure in her life. Likewise with me. And I mean, we're just very much in the same place. Everything lines up just perfectly. So, do I believe in soulmates? Well, that's a different question than true love, right? True love you can attain with somebody who's not a soulmate, presumably, whereas a soulmate is just one person in the whole world. I'm convinced that Kimberly is that one person in the whole world. It's kind of a magical thinking thing, I guess, but I believe it to be the case that we're soulmates. We were meant to be together. It took us 46 years to find each other, for God's sakes. And it's mind blowing how much magic there is in the whole thing. The way that she was kept out of relationships, despite being an ISFJ, out of a long term relationship by a succession of failures on part of one party or the other for 15 years, and a succession of false starts and maybe hopes and getting those hopes dashed and just basically giving up hope entirely until the last ninth inning, bottom of the ninth inning, 2 outs. Kimberly was getting ready to move away and go to a college because her life had basically exhausted that path. And then what happened? I showed up and everything changes. So those kind of slab-based understandings of things are important to me. I believe in magical thinking as one modality through which one ought to interpret the world. It is very easy for rationalists to dismiss the notion of true love as being too mushy and based on introverted feelings factors to be relevant in any consideration in terms of making decisions. But that's foolhardy to reduce something so important to a rational level. I'm going to check the chat over here in the live dashboard. If any other people in room one here have any comments, questions, concerns, complaints, queries, please voice them now. Nothing going on in the chat, but if you have a question here and you'd like to ask it, put it in the chat, or if you have a comment or whatever, and I will address it. Even if it's not exactly on topic, that's fine. I'm a little bit mushy about that anyway. Let me smoke a bowl. As drugs go, weed is my true love. Hi, Blanket. Catchy title. I'm here to learn enlightened one. FYI, full disclaimer. I'm totally not enlightened. If you think I'm enlightened, well, I don't believe in enlightenment. I don't believe in it. I believe in optimization. That people function more or less optimally, you know? Right now, I'm functioning pretty optimally for me. This is a fairly optimal version of Eric. I'm not super neurotic anymore. I'm at home. I'm able to be free to be myself and to grow as a human being, to become more real, more fair, more decent, less concerned with how I appear in ways that are harmful, and more concerned with how I impact others in ways that are good. So that's something that is happening to me as a result of Kimberly. Kimberly's making me a better human being just by her existence. I will try not to die. Thank you for voicing that sentiment. It's much preferable to the sentiment, please do die, which I would say, that's not very nice of you had you said that, so thank you for choosing the nicer thing. Anyhow, when you do get in a relationship with a dual and you understand what it means um, to find something that seems to resonate back and forth with both parties, it's a it's remarkable. It really is the way that it works. Because in most relationships, you start off with a type that's going to resonate more with you immediately. So let's say I were going on a date, so I didn't know anything about cognitive functions or personality types or anything, and I went out with an ENTP chick. We'd probably both be like, oh my God, we've got so much in common. I totally feel you. I resonate with you. I get you. You make perfectly good sense. But it's not going to work as a relationship long term because you don't want to date yourself. The whole concept of cognitive functions is that people are configured in an imbalanced fashion. Everybody is. Everybody's configured in an imbalanced fashion. Whatever your dominant function is, you're really naturally doing that thing, paying attention to that fashion. It necessarily means you're seeking its the other end of that axis. So because everybody's imbalanced, the whole idea of duality is built off the notion of seeking. That people seek certain things from others. That they seek another person in their life to provide certain manners of attention that they themselves find more less comfortable to provide. Anywho, so let's say you are there's two scenarios for a person watching this video. Either you are single or you are in a relationship. Now, single, I'm going to include both not dating and dating. We could divide that into two sections. You're either single and not dating, you're dating, or you're in a relationship. If you're single and not dating, and then there's a couple possible choices. You're either going to be, what are you doing? You're either going to be, who put that? Yeah, well, I closed it as quick as I could. Regardless, uh, if you are single and not dating, then chances are you feel like there's a challenge with your reproductive viability is not for sure. I was that way for a long time. I was not dating for there was 4 years after college where I was alone. I was neither dating nor in a relationship, and I didn't feel very reproductively viable. I just thought that chicks didn't want anything to do with me, that I wasn't good enough to get a chick, basically. Oddly, at the same time, I was successful in lots of other capacities. Like, I was fairly socially successful, and I was professionally pretty successful, and lots of stuff like that. Thank you, my beloved. Yeah, see what I'm saying? Um, anyway, but I didn't get chicks. I didn't understand fundamentally that they want something that seems contradictory and illogical. They want you to be a good guy, a nice guy, treat them with respect, and they want you to be confident and assertive in taking what you want from them. So what what chicks find sexually appealing, romantically appealing, is a man who confidently wants them and is confidently hungry for them in a very physical male way. Then concurrently, metaphysically, there are equivalents. And when people have problems with the opposite sex in general, I don't know about gay relationships, but when people have trouble with the opposite sex in general, it relates to that. It's like, well, this guy's being an asshole. Why do the chicks like assholes? Chicks don't actually like assholes per se. What they like is that confident, assertive male hunger and way of carrying oneself to that conveys to them that this guy uh, is strong, protective, knows what he wants, and I can position myself. He can be like a leader of sorts in a spiritual way. It's not like chicks actually want guys who boss them around or anything. It's that they want to feel safe. They want to feel safe above all else for as far as relationships go, and they want to feel safe that they've got a strong male that is able to assert himself and not let his woman get victimized. And concurrently, they want somebody who's genuinely loving and caring and sensitive, so to speak, towards them and their needs. So it's possible to do that. You don't. There's no reason why you have to be an asshole to get chicks. It's just that it's a challenge to understand how to manifest confidence in non-assholey ways. Now, if you are currently dating and frustrated by that process, trying to find a relationship, but having that weird dating thing happen, well, first of all, the only way dating ever works to produce a relationship is if one and both parties lock it down early. Because here's the problem. Let's say you like someone a lot, but you don't try to lock it down right away. Well, then you think, well, if I'm not trying to lock it down, that means I should be open to other options for myself. And the other party's saying, well, if she's not trying to lock it down, or if he's not trying to lock it down, then that means they're probably doing other things for themselves, and so I should probably do something else for myself too, to make sure. What? Not what I clicked. Sorry. Mm. So basically, because both parties are concerned about playing it cool, that is to say, keeping sufficient distance to not put too much pressure on the other party too soon in the dating environment, it guarantees that relationship will be either prevented or broken by the process of maintaining that distance. In other words, you might really like somebody, but you don't lock them down right away. Then you know they're getting with somebody else concurrently, and you're going to be getting with somebody else concurrently to protect your own emotional stuff, or you're going to be trying something else, or you're just sort of like, wait, I'm not sure if you're really serious or not. There's not clear, absolute, like, we are sitting down together and deleting our accounts on dating sites, and we are both committed 100% until further notice that we are monogamous and that neither of us will pursue or entertain anything else without notifying the other one person, breaking up with them, and stuff like that. You know, the formal sort of relationshipy shit. If you don't do that right away, then chances are, even if it was the right person and it might have worked out, it's gonna get muddled up with this dating distance thing in such a way that you're likely to not to actually ever pull it together and be a couple. That's why my take on the dating thing is if you find somebody you think's the right person, lock them down, at least temporarily, and say, look, I like you, but I'm not going to go out with you at all if you're not willing to be certain that you're going to be monogamous for the duration of our relationship, even though it might be short for a couple of weeks. I don't want to be going out to dinner with you knowing that you might be sleeping with other people because I like you. Are you able and willing to do that or not? If not, I'm going to go find somebody who is. And if you are, then let's do that and see how it works. You know, most people aren't going to try to lock it down forever like I did instantly, but you should try to lock it down for the duration of your comminglings, you know? Otherwise, it'll get destroyed by the realities of dating. Hmm. Okay. So, Let's say you're in a relationship currently, though. Well, if you're in a relationship right now, and you're watching this video, which is titled, Is True Love Real or Soulmates Real? Then there's two possibilities. Either you think you're in such a relationship, and you're certain of that, and you're looking to experience the giddy confirmation of somebody else saying, yes, it's real, and your shit is special. Your shit doesn't stink. It's true. If you're in a dual relationship that's working, congratulations, your shit doesn't stink anymore. If you're in this relationship, you know you don't want to spend a lot of time gloating about it or anything, but you know that it's qualitatively different than anything you've had before, and you know that it's qualitatively superior to most people's relationships. Now, relationship goodness is not a competition, obviously, and nobody should try to be like, boom, our relationship is way better than yours, motherfucker, losers. No, that's not the point I'm trying to say. The point I'm trying to say is, my basic desired narrative is if you aren't as ecstatic as I am with your significant other, then probably you're not in the right relationship. I mean, obviously, I'm not constantly in a state of ecstasy with Kimberly. Sometimes we fight and stuff. That's normal. But the default, I think we return to a default of mostly actively valuing and smiling at each other and laughing at each other's jokes and appreciating each other actively most of the time. And it's not something that we do because we're trying to do it. It's something that, like for me, I get overwhelmed by feelings sometimes. I want to like just start hugging her and I was hugging her more. And then usually, I guess eventually that leads to sexual intercourse. But that's something that's kind of surprising to me. It's like I didn't really realize that, oh, there's a link between your feelings. I just thought, God, this woman is making me feel so much all the time. It's like I feel this, yeah. Well, that's called love. Hmm. Hmm. It's healthy to miss somebody after a couple of hours. It's totally healthy. I miss Kimberly when she goes to the bathroom. So let's talk a little bit about codependency. Is codependency a real thing? Is it good or bad or whatever? Codependency is a real thing, and it's neither good nor bad. It's either good or bad. My codependency is fantastic. Why? Because both parties are equally committed to the notion that we are functioning as a team now. We are functioning as a codependency. Mm-hmm. What it means to be codependent is to uh, is to value the team status of the other more than your status as an independent operating agent. So, good job, Tay. Um, if you have a very angry dependency, that's very unhealthy. Like, if I can be suspicious in the sense that I'm like, why did it take you so long to go to the store or something? But the thing is, I'm I'm saying that because I want to be reassured. If it's unhealthy, if somebody wants to find something to get mad about. So it's really the motivation of the person who's feeling sexually jealous or suspicious or whatever. Hi, Josh.
Hey, man.
It's really the motivation of the person who's expressing their behavior that determines whether that behavior is healthy or unhealthy. Because if, in fact, somebody is reassuring themselves that they have no reason to be suspicious, then that behavior is much more understandable and justified than somebody who's actually trying to create things to be mad about, which will, of course, eventually they'll find something to be mad about. One of the things that happens, I think, a lot in relationships is parties get, at a certain point, after there's been enough conflict and there's been enough issues that haven't gotten resolved, that they start looking for things to be mad at each other about, looking for ways in which the other person is doing shit wrong. If you're in a relationship where that's happening, get out.
Hey, Eric, thanks for that message the other day. It cheered me up a little bit.
I'm glad to hear it, Josh. For all of you guys out there who are still looking for true love and who think maybe it's not in the cards for you, one of the reasons that shit went down the way it did, one of the reasons why shit went down the way it did between me and Kim is because.
Let me refresh. I'm having trouble hearing you. You're kind of like garbly. Let me refresh.
Um, so like I said, one of the reasons I think that shit played out the way it did for me and Kim is because I am meant to send this message to the world that if you are out there and are single or dating or in an unhappy relationship and you are operating under the assumption that your time has passed, that that's not in the cards for you. Well, it took Kim and I 45 years to find each other, and the fact that we're 45-year-olds when we got together doesn't make it any less amazing or fulfilling or satisfying. If anything, it makes it more so.
So you're only 7 years older than I am. That's crazy.
Right. So Kim and I have spent a lot of years in failed romantic partnerships of one sort or the other. Kim has had a series of short-lived ones. I've had a couple of long ones and a couple of short ones and a couple of things here and there. But none of them worked for either of us ultimately. That's why we were single and seeking when we were. Why didn't I find Kim when we were both had little kids and were both divorced? Well, because it wasn't meant to be then. I found her now though, and as I've indicated earlier in this video, I believe in both true love and soulmates at this point. Because I believe that, and the difference being this: true love is a state where you're actually experiencing the free running system of reciprocal affections that is a relationship between duals who are actively trying to love each other. If you have that situation, and it's planted in the right kind of soil, like you're living together and you have time enough to be with each other and all the ideal situational aspects that Kim and I have, plus you're demographically the same, plus blah 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 blah, you're gonna be in a state of true love, which is to say, there's no sense of wistfulness about it. There's no like, well, maybe if I could just have somebody else provide this thing. You genuinely feel as though the other party is providing everything you could possibly ever need or want from a romantic partner. I feel that way about Kim.
Eric,
Yeah.
Eric, could you refresh? I think it's on your end.
Okay.
Because I'm
So, um, as I was saying, I feel as though I stated true love, but the important distinction I'm trying to make here is that a soulmate is the indication that there's just one person, like in the whole world, is the right person for you. And true love is the idea that if you if you're with a person who's right enough, that you'll experience an ongoing state of reciprocal flow of affection, sort of thing. I believe in both of them because I mean, all the if one is going to interpret it through a frame of magical thinking at all, it's pretty obvious that Kimberly and I are so perfect for each other in terms of things not function related that she's got to be my soulmate, the one perfect person for me. There can't be that many other people who are the same age, the same sort of demographic upbringing in terms of neighborhood and money and stuff. Um, that have equal amounts of availability for each other, equal amounts of desire for firm commitment, equal amounts of. We have the same amount of kids. We each have one kid. She has a boy. I have a girl. They're the same age. They both, that had a home and a place for me that would have fit me into it in the way that it has. Then we're both self-employed and a million other things.
And you've integrated into her family very well. So I've observed.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
But
Well, it looks like it from the picture.
well, her family's kind of fucked up. I mean, she's integrated in my family super well. My family loves her. Um, but I'm a little bit of a more challenging flavor of individual than she is to be easily incorporated into a family that already is kind of dysfunctional and strong-willed. I come in like a ton of bricks and kind of mess things up a bit. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
I got I got I got a hold of a gram of pot the other day.
That's great, Josh.
That was cool.
Are you happier now?
That was cool.
Well, so
I ran out.
Josh's pot notwithstanding, back to the subject of true love and soulmates. I'm going to check the chat here in the live dashboard and see if there are any things here. There are questions I want. When I was younger, I got overwhelmed feelings because I couldn't express them. It would disrupt harmony. What is reliance versus dependency? Oh, lovely ladies, what is inner strength? When your day is hell and your husband boyfriend comes to you with the proverbial ship from the fan landing on him, what is inner strength? Proposition: soulmate illusion equals effort willing to put in plus ease of effort to work. Well, that's an interesting notion. I like that definition. I don't think it is an illusion, though. I think it's magic. You don't believe in magic? There's nothing more illusory about magical thinking explanations than there are about other manners of explanation, especially about something like feelings that defy real, clear, objective delineation. So it's really difficult to describe exactly what love is or define it in a meaningful way that allows you to make arguments from it, right? So as a consequence, it makes just as much sense to deal with such objects in terms of magic than it does in terms of reason. You know. I mean, the thing is, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. I don't talk about it a lot, but I am archpastor of the Elorian Church. And that does endow me with the ability to cast all sorts of magical spells. I can transubstantiate things with the fiery meth gas flames of Yaelor's truth. And, you can feel the power emanating through the internet. It doesn't go nowhere. It's directed by my magical will through the tubes of the internet right onto your face. It's kind of a floppy, gooey substance. Anyhow, speaking of Yaleor and Yalorianism, I don't think that uh, Yaleor necessarily ascribes to this true love soulmate model because I don't think really anybody does until they've been with that person. And I think most people probably don't ever find that person. It's kind of tragic. I think most people don't even ever come to accept the fact that they need to find something that's this right or that it's possible. I mean, there's always the possibility that you leave what you have, you look for something new that's better, and it doesn't, you are not able to find it, and you're alone forever. That's possible. That's frightening to people.
Very.
They don't want to take that risk, and the thing is, most people out there don't, even if they understand or are aware of the socionics model, even if they have a good sense of of like cognitive functions and how they match up and what they do and what they mean, they probably haven't fully ascribed to the duality model because it seems like it's limiting your choices unnecessarily. Like you'll say, well, do I really want to let some random theory control my life and choose only this kind of person who calls themselves these four letters and those four letters? I mean, come on. Life's
It's a
more
good
complicated.
guy.
Life's more
It's a good
complicated than
guy.
that. It's it's just a guide thing. It's not. It shouldn't be definitive. It shouldn't be. It. You've got to be.
I was I was talking to an ENTP. It didn't work out. He's got like psychological problems like I do. Major anxiety. He's got like an eating disorder. He's got like childhood abuse issues, and like he totally like retracted from me, and like I was like becoming infatuated with him, and I have a tendency to do that. And I
Okay.
don't know.
Well, the point is,
I'm disappointed.
most people who are not in a dual relationship will consider non-duals for romantic partners for sure, and it's understandable that
Yeah.
they would. But I bet you this: anybody who's been in a dual relationship and that dual has, let's say, died, would never consider another relationship that's not with their dual, and would consider it insane to even to attempt it. Because to me, I was willing to. I thought Kimberly was an ESFJ at first. I was down for that. I said, close enough. I'm looking for a chick. I've been looking too long. I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to just try to lock this shit down. In reality, the reason it felt so perfect was because she wasn't an ESFJ. She was an ISFJ. And the reason I felt so much at home here was because she was an ISFJ. It didn't take long for me to understand that she's definitely an ISFJ. She's no extra. What do you look? Yeah, where is it? All right, I gotta go kill a black widow. Everyone on the internet.
I could do that.
Where was it? On the fence?
Hey, Kimberly.
Hey,
How you feeling?
doing really well.
It's
How
good
are
to
you
know.
doing?
I'm all right.
How's Bernadette doing?
Well, she's kind of like withdrawn. She's really tired lately, and she started a new type of chemo. And I haven't talked to her in like 3 or 4 days. I messaged her. She hasn't responded. And usually, when she hasn't responded, it's when she's like processing her mortality and sleeping a lot. So I'm giving her her space.
Yeah. Is she beating this?
Oh, she's responding very well. The last time She had her last chemo session. I was in there. I went with her. I've gone to all of them except for this past one.
Yeah.
And when she first went in, she's a really tiny girl. She's tall, but she's very tiny.
Uh-huh.
She has like A cups, and like her left breast was like completely consumed with tumors. Like you could see them jutting out, like, and they're like jagged rocks with like points, and like it was like terrible. Like you took a rock and like broke it apart with a hammer. Like it was like there were no smooth spots on them, and then after her first round, we went in for the second one, and they were like, they had already started to shrink, and substantially. And then the third round, they shrunk even more, and they were like smooth. They weren't jagged anymore. And her oncologist felt them, verified that. Her oncologist is great. She's not like, she's really nice, really kind woman, but she's no nonsense. She's not going to like hand it off or anything. And she felt them and verified it that they had shrunk substantially. The moment she left the room, Bernadette let me feel them again, and I felt them, and it was like night and day. It was like crazy. They were like, you know, those little rice things that like the Japanese eat for dessert. They keep them in like the freezer section. They're like little rice patties, like
mochi.
Yeah. It felt like they were those, except they were a little bit more dense than that.
Yeah.
But they were like flat. They were like flat, like those. They weren't jagged anymore, and you couldn't see them sticking out of her breasts anymore. And they were just like, it was like some of them had disappeared, and the others that were still there.
What
just
are you
felt
talking about?
My friend's breast tumors.
Oh, okay. Josh, this is not the topic of this live stream.
I was asking.
Okay, my bad then. Anyway,
Yeah,
hopefully you've heard enough about that. We're talking about true love.
Sorry, Josh.
Kimberly got her breast got a clean bill of health from the doctor today, actually.
Yes.
So that's good, and I'm happy about that. I was worried because she had to go in for a mammogram and a ultrasound, and it turned out she was okay, and that's very much a relief to me because
My mom had cancer.
her mom had cancer, and I've not been before, obviously, in the period of my life where one normally worries much about people getting sick and stuff. As you get older, you start worrying about that a little bit more. I'm super happy that Kim got a clean bill of health. It makes it so I don't worry as much, you know? I still worry about, like, we just got our bikes fixed.
Have you had your colonoscopy yet?
What's that?
Have you had a colonoscopy yet?
No, I don't need a colonoscopy. I'm not getting a colonoscopy. My colon's just fine.
I have to go in and get my liver ultrasound next month.
If I'm going to get a colonoscopy, Kimberly's going to get it too. Anyway, the point is, Kimberly and I just went to get Kimberly's bike fixed, and we brought it back here. That's worrisome. Kimberly on a bike worries me. She's not as safe on the bicycle as I'd like her to be, in theory. She tends to make me think that she's going to swerve out into traffic sometimes, and she kind of like doesn't pay attention to what's going on around her very well. So I worry about her, and I'm constantly like, I'm in protect Kimberly mode when we're on the bikes. Like, make sure she doesn't go out in the street. And
I'm not even safe on my feet. I look down all the time, and like I run into like street signs.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's Kim. So
people will grab me like by my back, by my shirt. They're like, Josh, you're walking into the car. Like, Josh, you're about to walk into a street sign.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
what?
me and Eric riding our bikes. He treats me like I'm 5.
But I still am really glad we got our bikes fixed because that's the sort of thing that, because I'm in love, I really like to do, that I used to not ever want to do that kind of stuff. Did I ever want to go on a bicycle ride with my wife? No. Did I want to go for a walk? Sometimes, occasionally, it would be nice. I'd do so somewhat begrudgingly, and sometimes I'd be like, okay, I would certainly not suggest it. Because I always wanted to do something that didn't involve her. You know, I mean, There was lots of things I was interested in doing, and they didn't roll it. Like this thing, right? Kimberly is here and sitting next to me entirely of her own choosing. I didn't say, Kimberly, will you please come sit down next to me as I do this? And she begrudgingly goes, fine, Eric, I'll listen to it for a little while, but I've got things I'm more interested in this. She's choosing to sit next to me. She often does. Sometimes she'll get up and do stuff and whatever, but it's a beautiful, amazing experience for me to have somebody who's this much part of my life that I'm doing this and she's doing it with me, even if it's just sitting here. She's not really chiming in, but occasionally she does. She'll say, "It's not too late." There's a message she wanted me to get out to everybody. It's not too late for you. We were 45 before we found each other.
It's a beautiful thing to have somebody to love. Mm-hmm. I've had that before, and I know what it feels like. It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
And I have some favorite people on TWFP, and that's when I'll talk. And Josh, you're one of my favorites.
Aww.
She's the niceness coordinator. You see that? That is counterbalanced to my gruff interactive style. It's perfect balance. It's duality. So if you are out there and you are wondering, should I stay in this shitty relationship because it's better than nothing? The answer is no, but it is possible that nothing won't be great. Nothing won't persist forever if you don't want it to. It's not meant to. If you're growing as an individual in the absence of a relationship, if you're searching and trying to be honest with people you're interacting with, if you're not playing games, and you're not letting others play games with you, then it'll come together at some point as it's meant to, whatever that is. I believe that to be the case, and I believed stuff like that ever since I quit drinking. Prior to quitting drinking, I would have dismissed all this stuff as ridiculous nonsense, unsubstantiatable, easily falsified.
To have self-pity upon yourself.
I didn't drink from self-pity, exactly.
I drank to forget about my problems and have self-pity upon myself.
I just drank. I'm not sure why, but I didn't pity myself. I hated myself. And there's a difference. I have pitied myself on some occasions, but not related to that. So that was my experience, but it was not that I ever drank for any reason other than I had the thirst. And it was born of being me.
See, I hate alcohol. It's my drug of last resort.
Well, regardless.
I have to guzzle it. Like, I hate it. I hate the way it tastes. I hate it.
Regardless, I believe I feel like I've covered the topic as I wanted to this evening. It's Kimberly is a keeper, Jeremiah Fix. At what point is there to emulate extroversion if I can't get response? Probably ever willing plus ease of effort to work. Yeah, I mean the thing is, what's interesting is it took Kimberly and I really 6 months. This is the last thing I want to say. It took Kimberly and I the better part of 6 months, maybe 5 months or so, to get comfortable with each other and to figure out how our sexual compatibility worked. It was an odd experience at first where we came at sex from such completely different perspectives that there was a lot of like stumbling and bumbling and clumsiness and
Are you able to laugh
and failure. Am I able to laugh about it?
Are you able to laugh during sex?
Well, we usually don't. I usually don't laugh during sex, but there's a lot of laughter leading up to sex. There used to be a lot more laughter leading up to sex. Things become much more natural and comfortable for us. But it took us a while. It really did. And I think that that's an important message to throw in here, too, here at the end, is that true love and soulmates doesn't necessarily mean sexual chemistry right away. It didn't for me and Kimberly. It took us some time to understand that. And the reason it didn't work right away is there's something about this relationship that requires us both to be authentic with each other for shit to work properly, for shit to be good and satisfying and not produce whatever. I had to get over insecurities and stuff that were born of nothing really, except I just use sort of weird standards in my head that I don't know, and I had to learn to be more SI about things. I had always had sort of narrative driven sex, uh, which is, I mean, ENGP sex is kind of weird. I just gotta just say that right now. It is full of stories. Um, it's
I
like play acting or something, and that's not what she was accustomed to at all. And I've I've learned that that was sort of a stand-in. That was a bridge between me and an authentic experience of my body that I had to use because I didn't have my dual. I wasn't in an authentic relationship that allowed sex to be an expression of an abundance of valuing towards the other. So in other words, you know, sex on an SI level, which is how I get into FI as well, is is very much non is much more non-narrative than I guess what I was accustomed to. So, like I said, it took us a while to find our compatibility. It was there the whole time, but what we yeah, we're talking about true love. Yes, if you want to come chime in, Chris, on true love. Chris is an ISTJ. Let's see what his thoughts on true love are.
Who's Chris?
Chris is my neighbor.
Your beautiful wife is your true love.
Chris says his beautiful wife is his true love.
I noticed when I was in a real relationship.
All right, so here, let's wait. Hold on there, Josh. Let's get Chris in the mix here. We've got Chris. We've got Dalton as well. There's Chris. He's holding Dalton. And well, what? Not who is your true love, Chris, but what is true love?
Oh, what is true love?
Oh, Chris, what did you want?
Yeah, what is it? Let me ask you this: do you love Jen more than your last female companion?
Yeah, well,
It was.
yeah. Yeah, I love Jim more than my last female companion. Of course.
Because you didn't love her. You tried to love her.
I try to love her.
What prevented you from successfully loving her?
Probably the things that she's done.
Do you think if a woman treats you well, you can love her fine? It doesn't really matter how she is.
Meaning,
Meaning, like, if she hadn't, if your last woman had treated you well, hadn't done bad things, would you have been able to successfully love her, and would that have been just as good as with anybody else? As long as the chick does her job and treats you well and fulfills her duties as you understand as your mate, is any female as good as any other, provided that?
well, it,
But she's not into. She's totally annoying.
it
She can't
depends.
relate
I
to you
mean,
on any level other than.
with the last one, it was a cultural difference because she was Mexican, I was white. Yeah, I got the keys. But I actually didn't. To be honest, I actually didn't see myself with her.
You just got with her because you just kind of fell into it, or what?
Right.
I wonder what Jen has to say about true love.
Jen's busy. They've got dinner to be at 6, and they're late.
Where are they going to dinner?
6.
But where? I said, are we going to a restaurant? Oh, mother-in-law's.
What about you?
What do I think true love is? Well, I think true love is a state of reciprocal affection that flows smoothly and reinforces itself so that both parties feel increasingly positive about one another over time rather than having increasingly stark differences over unresolved issues.
Right.
Yeah. Then the issue of whether you have a soulmate or not is a separate question. Hey, Jen, you want to chime in on the question?
No, she's got
What
to
is
go.
true love, Jen?
She's got to go.
Yeah, what is true love, Jen?
Unconditional.
Okay, so that's a behavioral thing for you.
Well, what do you know? I mean, it's emotional. I mean, there's things he does where I'm ready to walk out and never talk to him again, but then I'm like, but I love him. What am I doing? I couldn't imagine like 10 minutes or an hour without him. Not have to come home and I'm furious at him.
So would you say love is a feeling of wanting to be with somebody or be around them?
Well, I would say it has to be. If you didn't love somebody but you didn't want to be around them, what's the point?
Eric did that for 14 years.
Were you really in love? Happy?
Well, I didn't know what it was at the time. I mean, I was.
Okay.
I had a good relationship by my criteria, as I defined
Well,
it.
I was with somebody on and off for 5 years, and I thought I loved him. He treated me very well, and my family thought I was going to marry him, but I didn't want to be around him all the time. Like, it was almost like I couldn't even stand being in the same room with him sometimes, and there was nothing that he even simply did other than just exist, and it was like, I had to leave. Like, but it didn't make any sense. He didn't treat me wrong. He was very, like, I don't know, I can't.
Right.
It's hard to. I could have stayed with him for 25 years and been very well taken care of, but I would have been miserable.
You wouldn't have been in a state of true love.
No, not at all. I think that's why I stayed with him for so long. I kept telling myself, but he's so perfect. Why aren't you? What's wrong? It didn't make sense.
Well, I think that's where people have a problem. There's nothing wrong with him, but it's not about there's nothing wrong with him. He's just not right for you.
Yeah.
So, what aspects of his personality did you find off-putting?
In him?
Yeah.
That's the thing. There was nothing.
That was even on-putting?
There was nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong. It just, there wasn't inside. There wasn't anything there.
But you said when sometimes you would be around him, you'd be like, ugh.
That's the thing. He didn't do anything wrong.
But what made you say, ugh? He must have said something.
Inside. No.
Just
inside.
his existence.
Yes. But it's not like he ever said or did anything. I mean, if he walked up here right now, you guys would be like, that guy's really cool.
What did he talk about? What was he interested in?
He was a paramedic that was a firefighter for a while as well. I mean, we talked about all types of stuff. He was very funny. Conversation. It's hard to explain. It's inside.
Was he an extrovert?
I don't. I don't know how to. That's what you're for.
Was he a talkie or is he real introverted?
No, he was not very talky when you first meet him, but then if he got to know you within maybe like a couple of days or two, he would talk to you quite a bit, and if he had something to drink, he couldn't get the shut up.
Interesting. Well, it just goes to show you, if you don't have the right person, it doesn't matter how cool you are or how much you are fair in your dealings with the other person. If they don't like you, they don't love you, then you're shit out of luck.
No, I'm fine.
And you can fall out of love with people.
Things are taken through. I'm home all day tomorrow. He's at work most of the days. So.
Oh, that's right. He's at work.
I don't have work. Oh, yeah, it's Columbus Day. He's working.
I work from 11 to 1 and 4 to 7.
That's awesome. Okay.
I work 5 full hours tomorrow. 2 of them from home. Anyway, that's Jen's thoughts on true love. You heard her tell the story of the gentleman she used to be with who there were no problems with him. There was nothing to complain about. She just didn't feel it. She was with that person on and off for 5 years. It's conceivable that you could.
It becomes like a state of like inertia after a while, and you have to break that if it's not the right person, because you become comfortable in a relationship just because you want to be in a relationship, and if it's not the right person, then eventually one of you is going to blow up.
Well, one of you is going to value your own feelings. And that's the thing why ENTPs are very easy for me to have gotten in that relationship that was good but not great, that met many of my needs but not all of them, that filled a role that rendered a role something I didn't have to worry about by filling it badly.
How do you see you would have done though, if you persisted in a relationship with Candace being in the state that it was, and then learned about duality and learned what you know now in the last 8 months, 9 months, what you've learned in the last year, how would you have managed that relationship moving forward?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I think Candace was in tune with her feelings about the thing.
Hey, I've gotta go put my brother to sleep. I'll be back a little bit later.
See you, Josh.
Love you guys.
Bye, Josh.
Bye. There was with Candace. I think she was ahead of the game, so to speak. I think eventually I would have been. Eventually, she would have failed to be on board too often. It would have become an issue because what I was doing already, without really trying exactly, was well, I was trying. I was trying to get her to play with me, like Kimberly's doing right now. Except she didn't ever want to do that. It was always begrudging. It was never something that she sought. She didn't think to herself, "Oh, it's gonna be fun. I'll play with Eric and what Eric's doing." And she didn't think, "Oh, here's a fun idea that Eric and I can play." She thought, "Here's what Eric's supposed to be doing to play a role in my thing." And so that extrovert extrovert conflict was.
But that's what I'm saying. How would you have managed that over time, knowing that you already had the answer to the fact that you were in it, like he said, inertia, in inertia. But how would you?
Well, I was actually the first one to say, I think this relationship may have a shelf life. I was actually the first person to say, this may not last forever. It
When
wasn't
did you
her.
say that?
When did I say that? At some point during the big war at work, when Candace once again was fighting on my boss's side against me. And
So do you think unconsciously, even yourself, even though she's the one who pulled the trigger, do you think that you would have eventually have gotten around to there, or would you have still just?
I mean, the thing is, ultimately, what freed the dam was my saying that. Because I had never said anything like that before for the entire history of the relationship. I had never threatened to leave. I had never said
How
this
did
might not
she
last
respond
forever.
to you saying that, being that was the first time you'd ever said
I mean, things changed after that.
it? Right after you said that?
Well, not immediately, but yeah, things changed after I said that. It's like then, at that point, the thing that prevented us from ever splitting apart was my absolute unshakable certainty about the fact that I wasn't ever leaving. That if this relationship was going to end, it was going to be Candace who ended it, and that if there were any problems, it's because Candace kept finding problems and complaining all the time. That's my central thesis, and that she had no ground to stand on in terms of those complaints because I was rock solid and she wasn't. Well, as soon as I showed, even I just said that one time, and it changed everything because I mean, and boy, you can imagine how much it would change things if I were to say something like that to you, right? And I never will. The difference being,
Well, she thought you
she
were
was
going
always
to
saying
leave.
it to me from the get go anyway. It was one sided with me and Candace. Candace was not above threatening to leave, not above, was not promising to be there forever, yada, yada, yada.
Oh,
Really. And that had been the case from the beginning of the relationship. And I was always the one saying, well, I will fill that role, man. I will be the solid one. And when I did shift once, finally, towards, a couple years before we split, maybe, or a year and a half before we split or whatever, that's what allowed her to then move forward on it. Yeah, I gave her permission. So, anyway, yeah, well, I was very, very frustrated because she was continually, over the course of months at this point, not being on my side even though I was completely right, and she didn't understand. She assumed I was wrong, even though I tried to explain that I was right. And my explanations that I was right, she'd view as problems in and of themselves. And it was, yeah, it was.
So would probably if you're not in a relationship, chances are that your relationship will have a shelf life.
Right.
Doesn't mean it can't work. It just means that you'll probably eventually later on in life seek something more.
Hi, Jewel.
Hey, I saw you guys were in here, so
Yeah, we're talking
yeah,
about
check it out.
true love and soulmates, and
Yeah.
one of the key distinctions I've been making here is that one can have true love and not be with one's soulmate, or one could have both.
Hmm.
And for example, Kimberly and I think, are soulmates because we have the duality thing, which allows us to be in a state of true love, but we also have the physical particulars. In other words, same age, same life situation, looking for the same thing, same demographic background. We're in the same place in life. We got equal, same number of kids each. Like everything's like
Mhm.
it's like lined up. Now, obviously, both
Yeah.
these notions of true love and soulmates require a certain leap of faith. A lot of rationalists will say neither of these things exist. A lot of FE users will, when asked to describe love, will describe behaviors that people have towards one another, whereas FI users tend to describe states of feeling.
Yeah.
Kimberly took the socionics test that I took, and we looked at our numbers next to each other. And oh, did you see Jules' results? Are you guys are really
Yeah.
similar? Oh,
No,
that's
we're
cool.
exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy.
It was funny. Yeah.
So I mean, I thought it was super cool that Kimberly. There's no way Kimberly could game that test. She was not trying to get ISFJ. She was just trying to answer the
Right.
questions honestly, and she got ISFJ, no doubt, with the FE heavy, a little heavier than the SI even,
Uh-huh.
which I totally get. I totally see that in her.
Yeah.
And my numbers match up pretty well with hers, but not exactly perfectly. But it's a little thing.
You
Like
want to know who Kim's because it made me laugh when I took it. And since Kim and I got the same result, is who we match up with perfectly as far as like the dual one is Audra. Audra posted her results.
oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So I
See,
pointed it out to Audra in the thread.
well, Jewel, never say never.
Well, that's why I saw you guys are in here and I heard Kim's voice because I watched a couple seconds and I meant to talk to Kim today anyway. Just to like fill her in on what's going on. But finally, Nick and I are in like a good place. So
Well, why don't we
it
end
took,
this live stream right here? And I
yeah,
would love to talk to you maybe and host Eric or something like that, and we'll lock the room up and see how that goes. Okay.
sure.
All
Okay.
right. Thanks for watching Talk with Faith People. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. And remember, yes, it's worth it to wait for your true love. It's worth it to look for your soulmate. Believe in those things. And remember, it took Kim and I each 45 fucking years of misery to find each other. So don't give up hope. It's not too late. Unless you're 46, in which case it's too late. You're never going to.